Reduce noise. In the bustling city of Boston, a young student named Mia struggled to improve her English. Despite hours of studying, she often forgot new vocabulary, mispronounced words, and felt frustrated. She wondered why some people seemed to learn quickly and effortlessly, while she struggled despite all her efforts. One afternoon, Mia came across a book titled The Secret Habits of Smart Learners. The title intrigued her. She realized that learning was not just about effort, it was about strategy, consistency, and mindset. Determined to improve, she decided to adopt these habits, observing them and practicing them daily. Mia began her journey by focusing on awareness, tracking which learning methods worked best for her, noticing moments of distraction, and reflecting on her progress. Awareness, she discovered, was the first step towards smarter, more effective learning. She wrote in her notebook, "Smart learning begins with knowing how you learn." This marked the start of Mia's journey toward mastering English the smart way, a journey of strategy, focus, and consistent practice that would unfold over weeks, reshaping both her skills and confidence. Mia soon realized that setting clear, achievable goals was essential for smart learning. Instead of vaguely thinking, "I want to improve my English," she broke her goal into specific targets. Learning 10 new words daily, practicing pronunciation for 15 minutes, and reading one short article each day. She discovered that small, measurable goals made progress tangible and prevented overwhelm. Checking off each task provided motivation, and she could see her skills improving steadily. Goals also helped her prioritize learning, focusing on what mattered most rather than spreading herself too thin. Mia also adopted the habit of daily reflection. Each evening, she reviewed what she learned, noted areas of difficulty, and planned strategies to improve. She found that this habit not only reinforced retention, but also created a sense of accountability and direction. She wrote in her notebook, "Clarity of goals transforms effort into measurable progress." By defining her learning targets and reflecting on her progress daily, Mia discovered that she could learn faster and retain more, turning her English study sessions into efficient and purposeful practice. Mia quickly realized that active engagement was key to smart learning. Passive reading or listening was not enough. She needed to interact with the material to truly understand and retain it. She began using techniques such as summarizing lessons in her own words, speaking aloud what she read, and teaching new concepts to herself or even to a friend. This active involvement forced her brain to process information deeply rather than superficially, making learning more effective and lasting. Mia also practiced asking questions about what she learned. Instead of memorizing vocabulary or grammar rules blindly, she explored how and why they were used, creating connections in her mind. For instance, when learning a new word, she asked, "When would I use this? Can I make a sentence with it? Does it have synonyms or opposite meanings?" That evening, she wrote in her notebook, "Active engagement turns information into knowledge and knowledge into skill." Through these methods, Mia discovered that interacting with material actively rather than passively consuming it made English learning faster, smarter, and more enjoyable. Mia soon discovered the power of consistency and habit formation in smart learning. She realized that short, regular study sessions were far more effective than long, sporadic cramming. Learning English daily, even for just 20 to 30 minutes, created a rhythm that strengthened memory and skill retention. She established a daily learning routine, dividing her sessions into focused blocks: vocabulary practice, pronunciation exercises, reading comprehension, and speaking practice. By sticking to a schedule, she built momentum and reduced procrastination. Over time, learning became a natural part of her day rather than a forced task. Mia also learned about spaced repetition, reviewing previously learned material at increasing intervals. This method ensured that words and grammar rules moved from short-term to long-term memory. She used flashcards and digital apps to schedule reviews, making learning efficient and science-backed. She wrote in her notebook, "Consistency compounds learning. Small, daily efforts lead to mastery." By creating habits and using spaced repetition, Mia discovered that regular, focused practice was a hallmark of smart learners, allowing her to make continuous progress without feeling overwhelmed. Mia realized that learning actively from mistakes was another secret habit of smart learners. Instead of fearing errors, she began to see them as opportunities to improve. Whenever she mispronounced a word or used incorrect grammar, she paused, analyzed the mistake, and corrected it immediately. She also kept a mistake journal, noting recurring errors and reviewing them regularly. By reflecting on patterns, she identified weak areas in her English skills and focused her practice on improvement. This proactive approach transformed mistakes from obstacles into valuable learning tools. Mia incorporated self-testing into her routine. She would quiz herself on vocabulary, construct sentences without notes, and even record herself speaking to evaluate pronunciation and fluency. Each test reinforced learning and boosted confidence. That evening, she wrote in her notebook, "Mistakes are not failures, they are guides on the path to mastery." Through embracing errors and learning from them, Mia discovered that smart learners grow stronger with each mistake, turning challenges into stepping stones toward fluency and confidence in English. Mia soon understood the importance of focused attention and minimizing distractions while learning. She noticed that multitasking or studying with her phone nearby often led to poor retention and slower progress. Smart learners, she realized, created environments that supported concentration. She began setting up a dedicated study space free from noise, clutter, and unnecessary technology. She used timed sessions with short breaks following techniques like Pomodoro, which allowed her to maintain sharp focus without fatigue. During these sessions, her mind was fully engaged in learning, making practice far more effective. Mia also practiced active listening and reading. While watching English videos or reading articles, she took notes, repeated phrases aloud, and asked herself questions to ensure comprehension. This method strengthened her understanding and retention rather than passively consuming content. That evening, she wrote in her notebook, "Focus multiplies learning. Attention is the currency of mastery." By creating a distraction-free environment and practicing focused attention, Mia discovered that smart learners make every minute of study count, absorbing more, retaining better, and progressing faster in English. Mia soon understood the importance of speaking and practicing English actively for smart learning. Reading and listening alone were not enough. Fluency required consistent verbal practice to internalize pronunciation, rhythm, and natural phrasing. She began speaking aloud daily, narrating her day, reading stories, and even recording herself to evaluate pronunciation and intonation. At first it felt awkward, but with regular practice, her confidence and clarity improved. Listening to her recordings allowed her to identify areas for improvement and track progress over time. Mia also sought real-life practice opportunities. She joined English-speaking groups online, participated in discussions, and engaged in language exchanges with peers. This interaction exposed her to different accents, idioms, and expressions, helping her adapt her learning to real-world contexts. She wrote in her notebook, "Fluency grows through use. Speaking is the bridge between knowledge and mastery." By actively practicing English aloud and interacting with others, Mia discovered that smart learners integrate practice with experience, turning knowledge into skill and making learning both dynamic and effective. Mia soon discovered that reading and listening to diverse content accelerated her English learning. Instead of sticking to textbooks alone, she explored articles, podcasts, videos, and stories in topics that interested her. This variety exposed her to new vocabulary, sentence structures, and cultural nuances. She adopted the habit of annotating and summarizing what she read or listened to. Writing short summaries in her own words helped her internalize concepts and remember them longer. She also highlighted useful phrases and expressions, practicing them in sentences of her own. Mia realized that contextual learning, seeing words and grammar in real-life usage, was far more effective than rote memorization. Learning became meaningful and enjoyable, making it easier to remember and apply. That evening, she wrote in her notebook, "Learning in context transforms words into understanding and knowledge into skill." By exploring diverse content and applying it actively, Mia discovered that smart learners immerse themselves in language, making learning natural, enjoyable, and effective. Mia realized the power of reflection and self-assessment in learning English the smart way. Simply practicing was not enough. She needed to regularly evaluate her progress, identify gaps, and adjust her strategies. She began keeping a learning journal, noting new words learned, mistakes made, and areas that required more focus. At the end of each week, she reviewed her notes, celebrated improvements, and planned her study sessions for the upcoming week. This reflection allowed her to make learning intentional rather than random. She began testing herself regularly. She would try speaking without notes, writing short essays, or summarizing articles orally. By assessing her ability to recall and use knowledge, she strengthened retention and built confidence. She wrote in her notebook, "Reflection turns practice into progress. Awareness of growth fuels improvement." Through consistent reflection and self-assessment, Mia discovered that smart learners continuously refine their approach, ensuring every effort is meaningful and every mistake becomes a stepping stone toward mastery. Mia soon discovered the importance of teaching others as a learning tool. She realized that explaining concepts to someone else forced her to organize her thoughts, clarify her understanding, and reinforce what she had learned. She began sharing new vocabulary, grammar tips, and pronunciation lessons with friends and classmates. Teaching aloud highlighted areas she hadn't fully mastered and encouraged her to research and practice more thoroughly. Even explaining things to herself, aloud or in writing, deepened her comprehension. Mia also used peer feedback to improve. Friends corrected her pronunciation or suggested alternative expressions, helping her refine her skills. She realized that learning was amplified when shared and that mistakes became learning opportunities through collaboration. She wrote in her notebook, "Teaching is learning doubled. Explaining knowledge deepens mastery." By using teaching as a tool, Mia discovered that smart learners reinforce knowledge by sharing it, making the learning process interactive, reflective, and far more effective. Mia realized that consuming content actively rather than passively was a habit that set smart learners apart. Listening to English podcasts or watching videos without engagement yielded minimal retention. To learn effectively, she needed to interact with the material. She began taking notes, pausing to repeat phrases, and summarizing ideas aloud. While watching English tutorials or reading articles, Mia asked herself questions. What does this mean? How can I use it? Can I make my own example? This active involvement transformed passive input into deep learning. She also practiced shadowing techniques. Listening to a sentence, she repeated it immediately, mimicking intonation, rhythm, and pronunciation. This method strengthened her speaking fluency and listening comprehension simultaneously. That evening, she wrote in her notebook, "Active engagement turns input into skill. Passivity slows progress." By consuming content actively, Mia discovered that smart learners transform every lesson into practice, absorbing information faster and applying it confidently in real-world situations. Mia soon discovered that setting realistic expectations and celebrating small wins was essential for sustained motivation. She realized that expecting perfection or rapid results often led to frustration and quitting. Smart learners, she noticed, embraced the journey and acknowledged every step forward. She began setting short-term achievable goals, like mastering 5 new words a day or speaking for 5 minutes without hesitation. Each accomplishment, no matter how small, was celebrated with a smile, a note in her journal, or a short break as a reward. These moments reinforced her commitment and made learning enjoyable. Mia also reflected on her progress over weeks and months, comparing current skills to where she started. Seeing tangible improvement boosted her confidence and motivated her to keep pushing forward even when progress seemed slow. She wrote in her notebook, "Small victories compound into mastery. Patience and celebration fuel persistence." Through realistic goals and celebration, Mia discovered that smart learners stay motivated and consistent, making learning sustainable and reducing the temptation to give up in the face of challenges. Mia realized that using multiple senses enhanced learning and made it more memorable. Smart learners didn't rely solely on reading or listening. They combined visual, auditory, and kinesthetic methods to reinforce understanding. She began writing new words while saying them aloud, drawing visual cues or doodles for complex concepts, and even gesturing while practicing phrases. Listening to English podcasts while following transcripts allowed her to connect sounds with written forms. These multisensory techniques made vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar more intuitive. She also incorporated memory aids like mnemonics, rhymes, and association games. For instance, linking the word benevolent with an image of a kind-hearted person made recall faster and easier. Learning became playful and engaging rather than repetitive and dull. She wrote in her notebook, "Learning with multiple senses ingrains knowledge more deeply and permanently." By combining visual, auditory, and kinesthetic methods, Mia discovered that smart learners maximize retention and understanding, making English learning faster, more effective, and far more enjoyable. Mia realized that reviewing and revisiting material regularly was a habit of smart learners. They understood that repetition, spaced over time, strengthened memory and ensured long-term retention. She began using a spaced repetition system, SRS, for vocabulary and grammar. Words learned today were reviewed after 1 day, then after 3 days, a week, and eventually a month. This method prevented forgetting and made recall effortless. Mia also reviewed her notes weekly, summarizing key lessons and correcting mistakes. In addition, Mia practiced interleaved learning, mixing different types of content in one study session. Instead of focusing solely on vocabulary or grammar, she alternated between reading, listening, speaking, and writing exercises. This approach improved her adaptability and ability to use English in varied contexts. That evening, she wrote in her notebook, "Consistent review turns short-term learning into lasting mastery." Through structured review and interleaved practice, Mia discovered that smart learners reinforce knowledge strategically, ensuring that every lesson learned becomes a permanent part of their skill set. Mia soon discovered the importance of curiosity and asking questions. Smart learners didn't just accept information, they explored, questioned, and sought deeper understanding. This mindset made learning more meaningful and engaging. Whenever Mia encountered a new word, phrase, or grammar rule, she asked herself, "Why is this used here? Are there alternatives? How does it change the meaning?" She also explored cultural contexts, idioms, and expressions, connecting language learning to real-life usage. This curiosity helped her remember concepts more effectively and apply them naturally. She also kept a question journal, noting anything she didn't understand immediately and researching answers later. Over time, this habit encouraged independent thinking and problem-solving, turning challenges into opportunities for growth. She wrote in her notebook, "Curiosity drives mastery. Questions transform learning from passive to active." By cultivating curiosity and consistently asking questions, Mia discovered that smart learners accelerate progress, retain knowledge more effectively, and develop a deeper, more intuitive command of English. Mia realized that connecting language learning with real-life practice was a secret habit of smart learners. They didn't confine learning to textbooks. They applied knowledge in daily situations, making it practical and memorable. She began writing emails, messages, and journal entries in English, narrating her daily experiences and thoughts. She also practiced speaking with friends, language partners, and even herself, describing her surroundings or planning imaginary conversations. Using English in meaningful contexts reinforced vocabulary and grammar naturally. Mia also explored immersive experiences, watching English movies with subtitles, listening to podcasts, and participating in online forums. By engaging with authentic material, she learned colloquial expressions, natural sentence flow, and cultural nuances that textbooks rarely taught. That evening, she wrote in her notebook, "Learning becomes permanent when applied in real life." By integrating English into daily life, Mia discovered that smart learners bridged the gap between theory and practice, making their skills functional, natural, and ready for real-world communication. Mia soon discovered the importance of reflection and adjustment in learning. Smart learners didn't stick blindly to one method. They regularly assessed what worked, what didn't, and adapted their strategies accordingly. She reviewed her weekly progress, noting improvements in vocabulary, pronunciation, and comprehension, while identifying areas that required more attention. For example, she realized that she retained spoken phrases better when she repeated them aloud, and that certain grammar exercises needed more practice. By analyzing patterns, Mia fine-tuned her study methods to maximize efficiency. Mia also embraced flexibility. If one approach became boring or ineffective, she switched techniques, explored new resources, or adjusted her schedule. This adaptive mindset kept learning engaging and prevented stagnation. She wrote in her notebook, "Reflection and adaptation turn effort into smart results." Through regular assessment and flexible strategies, Mia discovered that smart learners continuously optimize their learning, ensuring that every session contributes meaningfully to progress and mastery. Mia realized that motivation and mindset were the foundation of smart learning. Even with the best strategies, without a positive attitude and internal drive, progress would stall. Smart learners cultivated curiosity, resilience, and self-belief to stay consistent. She practiced self-encouragement and positive reinforcement, reminding herself of small achievements like correctly using new words or completing a challenging exercise. Instead of criticizing mistakes, she saw them as opportunities to improve, reinforcing a growth mindset that kept her motivated. She wrote in her notebook, "Motivation is the engine, mindset is the steering wheel." By fostering resilience, curiosity, and self-belief, Mia discovered that smart learners sustain progress through attitude and internal drive, making learning effective, enjoyable, and long-lasting. Mia reflected on the power of integrating all the habits of smart learners: awareness, goal setting, active engagement, consistency, practice, reflection, curiosity, and real-life application had transformed her English learning experience. She now felt confident, fluent, and motivated. Mia understood that smart learning wasn't about working harder, it was about working strategically, consistently, and mindfully. Each habit reinforced the others, creating a cycle of progress, retention, and mastery. She could now read, write, and speak English with ease, applying knowledge naturally in conversation, writing, and comprehension. She wrote in her notebook one final entry: "Smart learning is not magic, it is deliberate, consistent, and joyful."